All right, guys, let's begin. All right, so can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So let's talk about supply and demand today. So supply and demand are ideas that we have briefly covered. And do you guys remember what they are? Here, Reynold, give me an example of supply. What does supply do?
A supply is a resource?
It's how much is produced. Like,
Yeah.
say, if we have a
Like how
pencil,
much stuff we have?
well, how much the people who are going to sell the pencils make? How many pencils they make?
Yeah. Oh.
Yep. So how about Albert? Can you give me an example of demand? Or just like explain it?
So supply and demand basically. Let's say somebody's thirsty, right? Uh, and there's just water there. The demand is like the guy is thirsty, he wants that water, and it supplies that water.
Yep. So it's basically how much people want it. So now let's look at the graph for it. So this is a supply demand graph. This is the supply line, and this is the demand line. These over here. The x-axis is the quantity, and the y-axis is the price. So let's take a little closer look. So right here in the middle, that is the equivalence point. That's where things are equal. That's when the amount of things that people are supplied is matching the number of things that people demand. And so let's say it's 3. Let's say the quantity is 3, the price is $15. So in this case, there are 3 things that are supplied, and there are 3 people who each want one of those things. This is, again, when supply and demand are in equilibrium. The lines can also change due to certain circumstances. What might change supply or demand? Let's have Michael. Michael, what do you think might change supply or demand?
For supply, like if you didn't have a producer, it changes your supply.
That's good. A lack or excess of producers. So Felix, can you give me an example of what might change people's demand?
What was the question again?
What might change people's demand?
If there's like better versions of the product?
Yep, substitutes and complements. We'll also get into that later. So let's start with the demand line. Let's have it shift downwards, which means that people would have less demand. Thus, the price shifts down and the quantity shifts down. So let's say the price went down, and so did the quantity. Quantity went down to 2, price went down to 10. The same thing would happen if the demand line shifts upward as well. So now we shift the supply line. Things get a little trickier, and the supply line actually goes down when we go this. No, it goes up when we shift it downwards. So think of it like this. Because supply went down, the equilibrium point also changes. So the quantity goes up because there is more supply, but the price also goes down because more people, as the same amount of people want it, but there's just more of it. and the people who made the product have to sell it. So they sell it at a lower price so that people can buy more. The same thing happens when the supply line shifts upwards. I'm supposed to say upwards. The quantity would go down and the price would go up. So what makes the lines shift? Let's start with demand. There are 5 things. Just income, because if somebody has more money, they can buy more. That would be an increase. And so would be a decrease. Next is prices of related goods. So let's say we had, I don't know, an Apple phone. But an Android phone does the same thing, which in real life it doesn't, but bear with me. And it is cheaper. So the demand for Apple would go down. Number 3 is tastes, with the same example, because people just like Apple more than Android maybe. Thus, people would also increase the demand for Apple. Number 4, expectations. If one expects that, say, I don't know, a pencil is going to become popular, they're probably going to want it more. So also increasing demand. This would also be the same thing if people think that, oh, that dress or something, that cap is going to go out of style quickly. They're not going to want it anymore. Number 5, number of buyers. Obviously, if there are more people who are buyers, there is more demand. Next, we have the supply line, which is these 5, which are actually kind of, some of them mirror the demand shifters. So the supply shifters, input cost, how much it takes to make one item. This is kind of related to income, like how much does it take to buy one? So input costs, say potatoes become more expensive, then it's going to be more expensive to make French fries because you need potatoes to make French fries. And thus less potato chips or French fries will be made. Number 2, new technology. What if, in the last example, you could make potato chips instantly out of potatoes and for free after you bought the machine, of course. This new technology would make potato chips much more efficient and basically just make more of it. Number 3, production. Increase in production, as in the last example, would also improve supply. Number 4, same thing for number 4 as demand line, expectations. If sellers are going to expect this pencil is going to be really popular very, very soon, they're going to make more of it so that people can buy it. Number 5, obviously, again, number of sellers. If there are more people selling it, then there's more supply. Can you think of any examples of these factors? Ashley? You can just type it in the chat if you'd like. I guess she's not here. How about somebody I haven't called on? I think Alex. If she's not there either. How about Serena? Albert, do you want to answer? You look like you're standing there.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, Alex just answered it, so
Oh, viral pandemic may spontaneously sweep the nation. Huh, that sounds familiar. So what would that impact? Income. Yes. Very good. It definitely impacts income, which then impacts demand. But you could also tie it back to supply. Do you want to do that, or do you want to choose somebody else to see if they can? It would change expectations. For example, mask making companies, they might say something like, "Oh, there's definitely going to be an increased demand for masks. People are going to want more masks, and therefore we're going to go and make more so that people can buy." Doesn't anything affect? Yeah, Albert. Many things, almost everything. I think everything impacts these things. If water supply was down, then income wouldn't be down. I mean, if water supply goes down, it doesn't mean that the income wouldn't. I mean, it might be affected a little bit. Yeah. The workers at the water company, what about them? I guess if the water supply was down, the income might change. It might not, but if water supply was down, then it might affect, I don't know, the demand for juice or something, or maybe just like water alternatives. I don't know what water alternatives would be, but like water supply going going down, that means like people would have to pay more for it. So yeah, it sets off a wave effect. Lots of things affect many other things. And also, whenever you see a production is affected, is almost always a supply shift. If production is not affected, or if it just isn't even mentioned, it's most likely just a demand shift. All right, now let's talk macroeconomics. Has anybody heard of this term?
Maybe like tiny parts of a big company.
Well, economics is about like just studying
So like
decision making. So
tiny.
I'll give you an example. Microeconomics is about like decisions that you make every day, just like do I want to buy this? Should the store sell that? Macro means big.
So the most important decisions.
Say that again.
The most important decisions.
Well, you could say the largest decisions, like your country's GDP. Yeah, we talk about that. So it's still about decisions, but it's about large scale decisions, such as like, should this economy trade with another economy? If we go to war, I guess that's kind of, but not really part of the economics. So what we learned in the past, like what we learned today, was just mostly microeconomics. It's about the behavior of individuals and firms, like small companies, and about the allocation of scarce resources and the interactions among these individuals and firms. But today we're going to be delving into macroeconomics, which is about the behavior of individuals, not individuals and firms, but of entire countries and maybe even mainly even the whole world. What do you think of when you hear the word unemployment? Just type in the chat.
You fired.
Not employed, person doesn't have a job, fired, no job, laid off. Yep, very good. So you might think of somebody who's like that, but unemployment actually has very specific categorizations. They must be looking for a job and only considers people who are above 16 years old and below retirement. So anybody who can work and wants to work but is not working is unemployed. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics contacts over 60,000 households a month to determine the amount of unemployed people. Basically, they just call people and then say, hey, are you employed? Is your family employed? How many people in your family are unemployed? And then they take like the average of that and then they apply it to the whole nation. So every year they do this, and basically they just provide the numbers for the entire nation. There are actually two types of unemployment. Number one is frictional unemployment. It's when you're like looking for a job, but you're not going to be unemployed for long. So let's say you're a student, you just graduated from college, and you're just looking for somewhere to work. Right now, you're frictionally unemployed. How is this macro econ? Good question. Because now we're talking about frictional and structural unemployment. We're going to talk about how much, like how many people are actually in that, actually frictionally unemployed or structurally unemployed in the whole society, like in the entire nation. Very good. So this doesn't really contribute much to the total unemployment rate. But you know what does? The second one. Structural unemployment is categorized by not having skills. Searching people, but not qualified people, or people who are just not searching. It's affected by shifts in society. Like, take, for example, people who put cars together back in like 1990s or even like 1970s, people who put cars together by hand, like on the assembly line, drilling stuff in, probably soldering, welding a couple things as well. Those people are probably going to be structurally unemployed. They have some skills. They know how to weld, know how to build things, but because they're replaced, the shift in society has shifted into like robots making it. So they can't really find anywhere to work. Yes, Albert?
So how does frictional unemployment affect the economy in compared to structural unemployment?
Good question. Frictional unemployment shows the prosperity and of the country in the future, because if frictional unemployment is high, that means that there's a lot of people who are looking for jobs, who want to join the job market and contribute to like the country's overall GDP. If there's less frictional unemployment, that means either there's less people who are qualified and looking for jobs, or less people who want to work. So that means like there's going to be less efficiency. A good question. Can you guys think of any situations in which these two types of unemployment might apply? Let's have let's see. Alan.
Maybe COVID.
Sure. How does that affect it?
Cause COVID, like sometimes forces some people, like a lot of people, to work at home. So like people like cash registers and stuff, if they they're probably not gonna work in person, but there's no way to work in person, not in person as a cash register. So they probably will lose their job. And because companies are losing money because people aren't coming out because of the pandemic, so they might fire a lot of people.
That's very good. Do you think that would fall under frictional or structural?
I think structural.
That's actually a good answer. I mean, actually, there is no right answer for that because it's unexpected, honestly. Frictional, it kind of falls into frictional because they are looking for jobs and they're not unemployed for long, but it's because it's a dramatic shift in society. So most of them are actually frictionally unemployed, but there might be a couple of them who are structurally unemployed because of the shift in society that COVID changed. Very good. You can ask somebody else to respond or to give another answer.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't know. Think of when you anything that would like any major event that you remember.
The Great Depression.
That's a good one. So what did that do?
Cause many people to lose their jobs.
Yep. And that's what unemployment is about. So this is actually very similar to the COVID example. Some of them were frictionally employed and some of them were structurally unemployed. So frictionally unemployed people then were definitely still searching for jobs and they were still qualified. It's just that many things shut down. And it can't be really counted as a short unemployment time period since it actually went on for a long time. It could be structurally unemployed because it was affected by shifts in society, but the people still had skills. Most types of big events that cause unemployment usually are categorized as both, causing both. So let's have a question. Is it good or bad for unemployment rate to be at absolute 0%? Everybody is working. Everybody who wants to work is working.
I don't think that's good. What
Why do you
about
think so?
what about job employers?
What?
Like, what about job employers? Like the people who hire you for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well, they would what do you mean? As in like, what about them?
because there's nobody else to hire if everybody's already hired.
That's good. That's the point I wanted to make. Unemployment is usually seen as like a bad thing. But like if you have 0% unemployment, everybody's working. Nobody can accept new jobs. Very good. Because even if they were fired from job employment, they would have found another job because it's 0%. I guess so, but assuming that nobody gets fired, it would not be good because of people searching for workers for new jobs. New jobs are created every day, and that's not supposed to be it. So, oh, Albert had a question. What about tech company layoffs? Are you talking about the unemployment types?
Yeah, that's that. Like,
哦，你爸爸，你跟你爸爸一样，
It's a little similar to like everything else. So it might be frictional, it might be structural, but basically, like tech company layoffs are most likely just going to be frictional because if you're like younger and you were laid off by a company, you're probably going to be just looking for another job, and you're not going to be unemployed for long. It might be structural if, say, you've been working at the company for a long time, but like they're automating things and like they don't need you to like create the presentations because like AI will do it for them. So you have presentation making skills, but AI has been taking it over everything. So technically, your skills are like useless because AI is a lot cheaper than you are. Modern day workers, the modern economy is like slaves holding up the Roman Empire. And I guess so, but only in the way that they provide work. Slaves, I guess they weren't really paid. Well, they still receive better rights than slaves as we think of today. But definitely, I mean, it's just like labor holding up any empire. Just modern labor holding up the economy of a country, or you know, the farmers working in agricultural society back in, I don't know, maybe even the caveman days. So good question. It's kind of like a comparison. Yeah, you could say that. So let's talk about recessions. Recessions. Can anybody name a couple recessions? COVID? Yep. That could be counted as one. It is on the screen, yeah. Oh, Albert, like the value modern day workers have to our economy is similar to the laborers' Roman Empire. Well, the value that workers in all times, I guess, have to the economy. Not saying that they're treated the same. Yes, I agree with that. You're actually making a very good comparison. Stock market crash in 1920, that's the Great Depression. Big Sad, that's also the Great Depression. So very good. You'll actually experience 5 to 7 recessions during your entire life. Technically, COVID has already made a recession that we are currently living. No, not really. This was made a long time ago. What happens during a recession? Well, divorce, unemployment, and general unhappiness because, well, it's called the Great Depression for a reason. Everybody was sad, but also because people worry about like, oh, 2009 recession? That started in 2008. It kind of ended in 2000. Divorce? Yeah, divorce because many people had many things to worry about, like money. Money was a big concern back then, back in a recession. And people just aren't ready to do it because, marriage is something very, it's a leap. Oh no, I'm talking about the divorce that like the opposite of marriage, unmarriage. World War One. That was actually the end of the Great Depression. World War Two, yeah, definitely in Germany. That's what started World War Two. And but recessions also give opportunities. You could start a business and single-handedly turn around the recession. It's happened before. I don't remember what it was, but you guys can look it up if you'd like. Divorce is still a small side effect of an economic recession. Yeah, that's true. But it contributes to the general unhappiness. And it also contributes to the unemployment. In a recession, the unemployment rate, obviously, it skyrockets. And in good times, like the opposite of recessions, unemployment goes down. So you guys can actually check. What? What's the website called? You guys can look up the economic data with a website called Fred. And let's see if I can find it. Didn't they end the Great Depression by proposing job opportunities? Yeah, that's right. Because they raised jobs, they lowered unemployment, they actually dragged the entire economy out of the depression. Cyclical unemployment. Ooh, you've been looking things up. So basically, cyclical unemployment is just like the employment that goes like up and down after, you know, recessions and good times, because, you know, it goes recessions and non-recessions just go up and down, right? So yeah, exactly like that. So it's a cycle. So because like if there's depression, more people are laid off, so cyclical unemployment goes up, and cyclical unemployment goes down when the economy gets better. So very good. Cyclical unemployment is basically all of the other two types. Let's see, where can I find it? There it is. Assuming seasonal unemployment is similar. Yes, it is. Actually, seasonal can be often interchanged with cyclical because seasons go in a cycle. Where is the graph? Sorry. Let's see. Ah, there it is. So, as you can see, when these things jump up, it's basically like a depression. So as you can see, there's one back in 1970. There's one in 1974. A big one in the 1980s, actually. 1990. That was, I think, the dot-com bubble. 2008. Yep. I don't remember what it was. This is 2001. That one's 2008. Yeah. And this big spike is the COVID. So as you can see, there's actually a lot of recessions going on. Right now, there was a bit of a recession in 2022, and oh wow, that went up. Still, it's not as large as these giant spikes. SEO in a website? Yeah, you can look that up. But as you can see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's been 8 in the last 50 years. So assuming that you live to 80 years, there's probably going to be around 7, maybe 8. recessions in your lifetime. The dot-com bubble, I'm glad you asked. Basically, back when the internet was becoming a thing, people were like, oh, it's the next big investment. And so people were like putting all their money into it, and then just like a bubble, it burst. So lots of people lost their money, and it was like a little bit of a recession. It's not as bad as all the other recessions, as you can see. It's a little lower than all the other ones, but it's still not too good. Doesn't look too good there.
Wait, so like everyone was it like online banking?
Online banking? No, it was just interest in the internet. The internet was like the newest thing. Like the computers back then, like big boxes, and everybody wanted to like invest in websites.
How did it burst?
It's just that people put too much money into it, and it just couldn't sustain itself, because with a bubble, it always starts off with people having money put into a specific thing. Like, for example, in 2008, it was housing. And basically, if things start like shaking loose, like in 2008, it was like the housing loans were not as good as the ones before. And so people lost money, and it always happens in a bubble. You can look it up. I'm not actually too familiar with the dot-com bubble as I am with 2008, but you're free to look it up. Very interesting story, I'm sure.
I also think 1990 is when the Soviet Union collapsed.
Oh, this is the US recession chart.
Yeah, but I think that maybe has something to do with it because, Soviet Union was their direct competitor for maybe like 50 years.
That's a good method of thinking. However, if they're competitors, wouldn't it have gone up?
I don't know. Maybe it's like, I think it has something to do with it because it's a pretty big political event.
That's true.
Like the Soviet USSR just collapsing just all of a sudden in the span of like maybe 2 months in 1990.
That's a very good way of thinking. Does anybody else have questions? You guys are having a very, very good class.
And didn't the Gulf War happen right before that?
That's true. You could also assume that. The thing is, wars actually contribute. We don't know how it would like become. We don't know how it would affect things. So, I mean, the World War II, it actually boosted us into a time of prosperity, because like we joined the war late. That's why I also this is why geopolitics, or just like politics in general, is very, very interconnected to it, economics. That's why you see them like their courses interlinked. Bonds, World War II. Yeah, you could say that. And the bonds were paid back because, well, first we won, and the US was in a good economy. Remember, bonds are basically just borrowing money. So the bonds contributed to the war effort because the government was borrowing money from you to fund the war. No other questions? We kind of brought the nation together. Yep, very good. All right, now let's talk. Actually, wait. There's one thing that I need to cover. Sorry, guys, I forgot. This is back to microeconomics. But you guys might like this one. So demand, remember, related to the consumer's behavior. things that impact demand are income, types of goods. Oh yeah, types of goods. Normal goods are the better kind. They're wanted more when people have more income. Examples are fast internet, organic food, stocks, or high-end anything. Inferior goods are lesser kinds, which people want more when they are like poorer or have less income. Examples are ramen, off-brand ice cream, like secondhand shoes. The prices of related goods also impact demand since they just compare, most people just compare two goods prices. We talked about this. If, say, the iPhone is much more expensive than the Google Pixel, and if they're the same, which one would most people buy? The cheaper one, because it does the same thing. And substitutes are what their name implies. They can substitute their respective good. Yes?
Now, the iPhone in this situation, I think the iPhone's more of like a social status rather than a phone. So like people buying the difference between a Google Pixel and an iPhone is just like the difference between higher social status and lower social status.
Exactly. I'm glad that you brought that up because the next one is expectations and tastes and differing opinions. Because as you said, Apple's a more popular brand, so people expect that when they get the iPhone, people are going to think that they're rich. And people just like, they have different tastes too. Like I might prefer the iPhone, I might prefer Google Pixel, I might even prefer Nokia. Advertising, yeah, that does involve tastes and differing opinions. Would you rather make a deal with someone with an Android or an iPhone? Exactly. Supply, we also talked about this. Input prices, this is the potatoes and potato chip. Technology, also the potato chip example, it's about manufacturing. Expectations is similar to the expectations of the other one. Number of sellers, obviously. Huh, I forgot why those pictures were there. All right, so now that we have gone through everything, you guys want to try the Gimkit again? I know we do this every day, but wait, maybe Bookit. Do I actually have a Bookit?